And welcome back. Welcome back, nerds, and I'm here today to talk about the 90s, but specifically something in the 90s. Now, the 90s were a weird time of weird extreme buzzwords like cowabunga,
bodacious,
radical,
extreme,
and other such shouty catchphrases that really set the decade apart from other toy lines of the time like Gak or Pogs or Bop It or other really short toy title names that really don't make sense these days. Another thing about the 90s that set it apart was everything went from big to small. G.I. Joe had already started this with the action figures mimicking how small the Star Wars figures were, so there was always a trend from the 80s to the 90s of a downsizing and progression of how things were made. So it was kind of inevitable that the 90s would actually culminate in the miniature era of toys. Polly Pocket, Micro Machines, Matchbox, Star Wars even, and yeah, even Transformers threw their hand into the mix with MicroMasters. So the 90s really was the age of like the miniature toys. You might even say that going small was very big at the time. I'll see myself out. So with that firmly in mind for the 90s mindset of going small, here's where the toy manufacturer Bluebird comes in. Bluebird Toys was actually founded in 1980 in the good old United Kingdom. It spent a long span of its existence from 1983 to 1998 working out of Swindon. So that's a random weird fact for you, I guess. For those of you who don't know, Bluebird found their fame with such toys as the Big Yellow Teapot House. I'd never heard of it either. The Big Red Fun Bus. One of the bigger lines, Manta Force, which honestly, if we're going to go off here on a tangent, I can't believe more people on YouTube or the internet in general haven't talked about Manta Force. Manta Force was awesome. And yes, of course, the aforementioned Polly Pocket, which Mattel, after they bought out Bluebird in 1998, reformatted it into more of a fashion doll with accessories rather than a playset with small miniature figures as it was originally known for. So Bluebird in the 1980s was mainly known for the playsets and houses that would eventually become smaller and miniaturized and become things like Polly Pocket. And for the boys market, what did we get? In 1992, Bluebird hit the boys' toys market, taking ideas from Manta Force and the ideas also from Polly Pocket and kind of mixing them up until they got Mighty Max, which, yeah, it's still cool. I was going to get more for this video to look at rather than the three that we are going to look at, but even trying to find the most simplest ones on eBay can cost up to $30 to $40. And the giant playset of Skull Mountain, I started bidding on one that was about $12, and yeah, as you can see, it ended up at like just about $100, and I don't really have a spare $100 just laying around to make a video with. So yeah, it's safe to say that Mighty Max has developed kind of a cult status following, even for non-toy fans who had them as a kid and just want to buy a set and kind of relive their childhood through that one thing, but it's safe to say it's still kind of popular. I even took pictures a lot of my toy collection as a kid, and yes, the photo that I just showed you just now, this is actually the original, and as you can see, I was a nerd back then and I still am today. So these are three sets that I managed to get for good prices on eBay. There's a piece or so missing out of each, or at least these two. It's so difficult to find these complete and for a good price. And ones in package are just, as I said, astronomically high. I managed to spend just over about $60 on all three of these combined, maybe a little over, but I set myself a budget and this is what I got. So let's take a look. So the Mighty Max range, this was a basic set for roughly about $11, $12 back in 1992 to 94 is when the line really ended. But the Doom Zones were the original bulk of the line. They also came with things like horror heads, monster heads, and things like hairy heads as well, and shrunken heads. So there was quite a variety in the line, but as you can see from this, they're not that big, but the detailing and the molding and the thought gone into making this look like an actual spider freaked me out as a kid, not gonna lie. I don't like spiders to begin with, and this did not improve. This is the only one of the three that I did not have as a kid, mainly because of my fear of spiders. So now, 30 odd something years old, I feel like I can really conquer that fear. So this set is called Trapped by Arachnoid, and on all the packaging they had kind of Eagle-esque comic strips on the back, which told you a more in-depth story of what actually happens in the playset. And obviously you had the cartoon where they had episodes focusing on pretty much each set that you'd get. So every week was basically a toy commercial. In the 80s and 90s, that was nothing new. It was basically, a cartoon was marketing at that point. And in the 90s, we'd clocked on completely and we were okay with it. So this set, you got some nice paint on the outside. You got the Mighty Max embossed logo, and it's got a little clip just like the Polly Pockets, except for the Polly Pockets don't have giant spiders coming out of them. And that, you can see there, you've got the carried on from Manta Force. They'd have little holes where the minifigures would sit or stand, and the molding on these is soft rubber plastic, and yeah, it's hollow because you've got to fit it over this in order to close it. But these are really cool. I'm sorry, this is a massive hit of Blast from the Past for me. Obviously, some of the figures, like this one here, even from trying to do it behind the camera, you don't always get them in correctly because they like to just fall out. But this actually spins, and depending on what side you want is hero or villain. So you've got Mighty Max here, and we'll take a look at him first. All the little molded figures were different, and if I can focus, he's got a little purple cap. Some of these weren't painted. Some of these just came as like bright orange plastic figures, and I'm not sure, because this was one of the first in the line, so I'm not sure if there was just a whole bunch not painted. But he's the typical 90s kid. You've got the backwards sideways cap, you got the baggy t-shirt, you got the sneakers. He's a cool little dude with what I can assume to be dilated pupils, because that is a dead-eyed stare there. That is a stare that looks into your very soul. What we will do is we will just pop him in there, if he will fit. And if I remember correctly, there we go. So for some reason, Mighty Max can ride the spider, but the bad guy cannot. And the bad guy, let's get him out. But it's kind of like all of the Doom Zones and a lot of the other Shrunken Heads came with adversaries, and the bigger playsets as well. And there's not much detailing with the paint, but there is. It's kind of cool. Why he has like 4 arms when he's a fly creature, I don't know, but you can see like his spine detailed out there. You know, biceps and triceps. I mean, these are really cute molded figures, and yeah, they're bendy soft plastic, but these will hold up really well as long as they're kept in good condition and right temperature. But yeah, even after like 20 years, he's still kicking. A little bit dusty, but he's good. Now, the playsets themselves were little miniature, I think, works of art, because some of the detailing, you've got the brain here for obviously the machine, and you've got all wires going into the bottom of it. Again, brick sculpted wall here, and then electrodes, the paint, and you got, as you turn it, you've got all the detailing on the side, which isn't much, but again, when you close this, the detailing works on the outside too. So there was some really good thought gone into this, especially here where you've got like a spine and then what looks like a rib cage, which works as good detailing for inside holding this platform up. But then when you think about it, it's the spider, so it's got its spine and a rib cage, which is weird, but it kind of works. Let's have a look. Open this up fully. And you've got a little control panel here. Basic paint jobs, but even that is so good. All the rocks and the kind of skinny tendrils, the skulls kind of soaked or webbed to the back with some blood splatters. So crazy. And then obviously you've got the little cage that you'd put Mighty Max in to trap him in the comic book. But then you've got molded in dead guy skeleton with a blood splatter. This was a toy. This was sold. You've even got the Bluebird stamp on the back, 1992, obviously made in China, patent pending, obviously. But yeah, even the bottom, you've got some guy's hand coming out of a cave or a dungeon, sorry, in the obviously the bowels. But even the thought gone into a lot of what you don't see at the back. You've got little windows here. Obviously, if there is a real dungeon, it goes further down, and they only get a little bit of light, but the steps that are carved out with some blood dripping down, the thought that went into these, again, simplified details, but still enough to make it look utterly, utterly cool. And the 90s was all about that gross out, like Gak, Pogs, Super Soakers, Nerf, you know, anything crazy went. And Mighty Max fits right in. And this is just set number 1. The next set in the small cavalcade of Mighty Max playsets, or Doom Zones as they were called, is the Slays the Doom Dragon. So you've got a Doom set, Doom Dragon. And again, it's only simple paintwork, but it makes it stand out so much. And the eyes painted in, I thought a lot of thought went into these, especially as a kid. And you've got the teeth, which, when opened up, reveals to be rocks. And the eyes, just rocks again, just painted differently. But again, look at the little minifigures first. Let's Max first, because Max is... It's his line, so let's look at him first. The figures were always molded to show how he would be in the cartoon or the comic strip. So we've got him with a little lantern here, like 1800s lighthouse keeper or a railway attendant at night. You know, you'd go out and be like oh, Mr. Porter, go out and be like, who was there in the dark? Like, use a flashlight. It's 2022, for fuck's sake. Next, and the one that always broke, because again, it's the Polly Pocket style of the middle kind of moves, so they only have a waist joint. But this is so, it's old. It's old. It's going to be, I shouldn't expect much from like a 20-something-year-old toy, but this is like Ghostface if he didn't have a face, because he's got the knife, and he's got the action there. It's like, but why he's got his other hand like that, I don't know. If I was a kid, I'd be petrified of some guy coming out of the dark with a purple knife, just randomly walking like that. But yeah, basic mold, but it gets the job done. It, you know, the hood's good, the hood comes back, he's wearing a cloak, I guess. Just generic medieval bad guy. Well, evil wizard. And like every evil wizard, he comes with his very own George the Dragon, which again is soft plastic, but it was generally a monster and someone controlling the monster. That was kind of the main plot, if I remember correctly. Like, he'd jump into a scenario and it'd be like, oh, big monster, and then stop the guy controlling the monster, and then the monster was like, I'm cool now, later. But yeah, this dragon is pretty well sculpted, and he's got like the dragon belly sculpted in, and one arm kind of like that guy from Scary Movie 2, like, yeah, grab my good arm, grab my good, there's no time. again, molded in detail for where they go, and even inside the cave, you've got stickers of like the skulls of people that this thing has killed, and obviously this sticker underlay is underneath the plastic they put on the top. But looking at it, you got a like acid lake. Let's try and you got an acid lake with someone being dissolved and like trippy 90s neon colors. Up here you've got, what is it, like a fire pit and like more skull. Like there was a lot of dead people in these doom zones. Like how many, like Max must be freaking amazing. Like there's at least 6-7 dead bodies in this one doom zone alone. Well, that might be the wizard's bed. I don't know, he might be a vampire. But yeah, the detailing, and he's got his little chair that he can sit in, obviously, in his little lectern where he can read his book out of what I assume to be a window for him. It was little books on the shelf. Some are even painted. Like these little play sets were really something back in the day. And obviously you've got a hook, and a lot of these would have extra accessories that would make sense in the comic, or again the cartoon, that Max would, you know, grappling hook, work his way up, read the book, defeat the wizard, boom, job done, ace. But yeah, and there's even a little like slot for that to go into. But yeah, rickety bridge, which actually rickets, I guess actually rickets is a thing. But yeah, there's another good one, and it's even got a little door he can come in and out of. It's little touches like that that really make these sets. And again, you just have it regular, standing up like this, just like the Polly Pocket sets. And obviously the play sets opened up and have things come out. But these Doom Zones were really the backbone of the entire line. And you can see why, because there's so much detail and care put into these things. And where Manta Force was just bare bones, maybe a few stickers, but it was just molded and mostly unpainted, they really did put a lot more effort into this line. Just from like the sticker decals underneath, the paint details, and it's a little has gone a long way. And I don't know about you, but it's appreciated. And now the final one in this video of the 3 sets that I have, it is Mighty Max Conquers the Temple of Venom. No, not that Venom. No, not that Venom. This Venom right here. And again, little minimal detail of paint highlights on the outside, and just another piece like the spider one poking through from the inside to kind of complete the outward look. Again, stamped with the logo just like Polly Pocket, but this one's unique. Like some of them on the line where you've not only got one, but you've got 2 pullouts. And this kind of has a multi-layered, because you've got this one here kind of going down into what will be the playset itself. So it's kind of like an excavation site on top of the temple. That's genius. That's one sticker decal, and you've added a little bit of layer to an otherwise rather childish playset. And it is childish, but it's still cool. There was a lot of thought put into this, let's say. So you got already 3 dead bodies before even going inside, and Mighty Max has got his pickaxe and shovel and rope ready to go down into the Temple of Venom. You've also got this little thing here, which again, like the dragon set, there was something inside to hook this to this part when it flips up, but that's the one piece that didn't come with this set. But before we fold that out, we're going to look in here. You've got some treasure and another cobra. And again, just a little bit of paint detail to pick that out, but it's really good. It really gives you an Indiana Jones kind of vibe. So it doesn't only just work for like the snakehead, because it gives him some articulation, but it also works as a platform for the figures. So again, it's really good engineering, and I hope the guys or gals or whoever designed and made this went on to do a whole lot more. So the mummy's out, the mummy's loose. We will get to the mummy una momento. But before that, we'll look at Max again. Max looks like he is, again, in a more pinkish variant of his cap, but it looks like he's about to punch some people out. Like, he's had enough, and he's like, I've been standing in this line for 15 minutes. I want my McDonald's. So, I'm not going to put it back in, because it'd be hell to put back in, but the mummy actually has its own little sarcophagi hidey hole where the hole for the sticker is on the other side, and you can see the imprint of where you're supposed to lay him and then close it so it closes properly. Again, just that one little detail, pretty sweet. You just lay him, yeah, just lay him inside, boom, job done, boom, closes, and then he is back in. Yeah, even the level of detail on the inside, and this I think is the most detailed one. You got hieroglyphs on the wall, you got layers molded into the outer shell of just skulls, and it's just background details because they're not really important, like they're not picked out, but I guess that's how long they've been there or how old this is. And you got cobras and more hieroglyphs on this side and broken wall, and someone probably will tell me it's Anubis, maybe an Egyptian pantheon god, which again, with the detail, some of him is broken off and he's kind of like looking worse for wear, kind of like a lot of the background stuff. That attention to detail is pretty cool. You can't deny it. And even the cool little things of this statue or 3D sculpture in the wall and a snake's coming out of the nose. That's pretty cool. That's very Brendan Fraser, The Mummy. It's but again, you've got the usual, like there was a lot of people that went through these doom zones and just died a death. So, and obviously all the snakes on the bottom with some rock formation molded in and the little spot for Max to stand. Again, is just so cool. And the poses that some of these guys have, like this guy was really reaching to like get whatever this is out and then just died. And it looks like he was trying to take a drink from it or something, but this guy was desperately trying to get out. His hands on rocks. It's just crazy. But again, you've got like a little sphinx thing here, but bam, small attention to detail. And what is waiting inside? It's some kind of urn or bottle and another skull head. So Max hoping for treasure and finding booze and dead people. So what are you gonna do? So that is the play set, and obviously with that you've got the hole here, and you've got, there was a catch or something on the other side, but there'd be a rope, if I remember, connecting the two pieces to stop them spreading apart. And this one is the wobbliest of them, but this one's got the most weight, I think, to it because of the insert piece having so much weight and detail on it. But let's have a look at Mum Ra, or whoever we're calling it, well, Mummy Venom, let's say. But again, he's got his rings picked out with some gold, or is that just paint scratches? It is 20 years old, so it's probably paint scratches. But yeah, these little monstery figures were so cool. Battery dying. Oh no. So yeah, he's clutching his scepter there. Got his Egyptian headdress ready to go, and gonna do some hardcore mummying. Looks like he's about to knock on the door. Hello, have you heard of life insurance? That's cool. And last but not least, the rattlesnake tail actually doubles up from the outside to the inside and is a pretty nifty little scorpion. And again, in the comic books or the comic strips on the back and the front that would detail Max's adventure in the specific Doom Zone, it's really cool. And again, you've only got that little bit of paint, but the rest of it is so well molded. And it's the basic, just your basic scorpion shape, hollow interior, flat bottom, just to fit on there, but nah. It really does work. And again, in the same vein of monster controlling person for monster and Max having to stop them, it was kind of the format. So it's a format that worked for about 2-3 years. So good on you, Mighty Max. Good on you. So yeah, that was just a brief glimpse into the world of Mighty Max. And down the road, I may want to revisit this with some more Doom Zones or Shrunken Heads, or maybe even a playset if I can find it for a decent price. But really, what is there much to say about playsets like this other than they're cute, they're cool, they were a fad for a hot minute, and they fit the miniature aesthetic of the 90s. I mean, it's not like it was a fan favorite character from a long-running franchise. I mean, they did the job. That's it. So yeah, Mighty Max was popular for a hot minute, and it had its day in the 90s as another miniature toy on the shelves. Whereas that kind of died a death with the merger with Mattel, or Mattel buying out Bluebird. Polly Pocket kind of reformatted and stuck around, so Mattel, what are you doing? You've got work to do. Come on. But until next time, I've been Toy Scourge. This has been another Retroview, and yeah, stay safe, stay nerdy. So another video done, and thank you for watching. Maybe smash the like button, subscribe for more Toy Scourge content if it comes up in the future, and maybe check out a couple of the other videos on the page right now if you like what you're watching. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and stay nerdy.